Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be reading some deep woods scary stories. Haven't done these in a while. I like these. I like all the stories we do and all of the categories of stories that we read under, to be honest. But I just like doing this. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm not going to keep you guys too long. I just wanted to say thank you for all the love and support as always towards the channel and where we're going. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps me out a lot and helps the channel out. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy the stories for today. Thank you so much. Me and my neighbor M walked to the store and didn't get back to our apartment complex until it was completely dark outside. It was pretty chilly out as it was early December, around 9:30 or 10 p.m. In order to get to the apartments, we had to walk through a stretch of road with no streetlights and covered by trees. Usually, you can use the moonlight that shines through the spaces in the leaves to see. Since it was December, it was cloudy, so not a whole lot of moonlight. There's a small entrance of trails that leads up to the cemetery behind the apartments. We smelled something like a decaying animal. We both assumed it was a deer that died, and that's extremely common around the apartments. However, M decided to point the flashlight at the entrance of the trails. We both saw a tall figure crouched down. I'm 5'9" and it would have been eye level to me. It was really skinny. A pale gray, long limbs, and either really sunken in eyes or none at all. All I saw was two black sockets. The way I describe it is it looked like someone took decaying skin and stretched it across a skeleton. We both ran until we got to M's apartment. We still don't know what we saw that night. We tried to figure out, but never got any answers. It's common for creepy stuff to happen at the apartments, as again, there is a cemetery right behind the buildings just through the woods. When I was younger and more ambitious in my early teens, I loved to explore the mountains of my home village and the gates of the Arctic National Park. I knew about how dangerous the caves could be in the mountains and never liked to go near them, but I loved waterfalls, big or small, that fell from great heights in the summer. One year, I had just received a Honda Foreman 500 as a gift from my mom. I rarely received physical items, as I am not much of a materialistic person, but I do enjoy getting vehicles that I can use for hunting as presents every now and then. Usually, they're older models, so they aren't as expensive as the newer ones, but I love them just as much, and I take care of them as best as I can. Anyway, I was driving my new Honda through an old trail that I only knew of as a snow machine, or snowmobile trail in the winter. I had recently learned about the summer trail and I decided I would go and explore the valley it led into. While driving, I began to have the eerie feeling of being watched. The hair on my body stood on end on the side I felt like I was being watched from, so I knew where to glance at as I drove. I did my best to keep on the old rocky trail, and I began to glance over my left as frequently as possible. I think that, as a hunter, I've developed a better sense of when I'm being watched, and it seems to pay off quite a bit in the wilderness up here. As I looked over, I would scan the willow thickets. As I did, I noticed a dark figure keeping up with me. It stood tall, what I presumed to be about 8.5 feet tall, and it was keeping up with me as I was going about 25 miles per hour on a fairly smooth but rocky trail. I kicked the Honda into a higher gear and sped up. I only stopped feeling like it was just right there after I left the willow thickets. When I was able to, I looked back and watched the willows again. Keep in mind, these are diamond willows that stand about 10 feet tall, and I started to see the figure again. It was nearly as tall as the willows and it brushed through them with ease, as if it was phasing through them or something. I haven't returned to that trail in quite some time, but I would like to return with my cousins to see if we can get some videos and pictures of whatever it was. Growing up in Tennessee on a small farm bordering a forest, I encountered numerous inexplicable events, but one series of occurrences remain a mystery to this day. Around the age of 12 or 13, I started having reoccurring dreams set in the forest, a place I frequently visited. In these dreams, I encountered a large black wolf with glowing red eyes. Strangely, each sighting of this wolf preceded a death on the farm within a day or two, typically involving a chicken falling prey to a predator. During my final dream involving the wolf, a woman's voice accompanied its presence in the forest. I could hear her. She always remained just out of my line of sight, though her words are now hazy in my memory. I recall her saying, "Do not fear the wolf," among other things. As the wolf circled me, I didn't feel fear, but rather a deep sense of respect for its ancient power. After that last encounter, I never saw the wolf again, but the dreams felt more vivid than reality. Since then, I've wondered about the identity of the wolf and the woman in the forest. These dreams mark the beginning of my fascination with the paranormal, leading to many more inexplicable experiences. I've often wondered if I connected with the forest spirit or a Native American presence during those encounters. So, I've been hearing this creepy bird-like whistle since 18 and whatnot. For context, we live at the countryside and there is a sugarcane field at the back of our house, and behind the field was the woods. The field was wide, so it was a bit far from our house. I don't know when exactly I started hearing it, but as I remember, I've started to hear it at the age of 18. I'm 20 now, so it's been 2 years. At first I pay it no mind, but I noticed that I've been hearing it near my apartment I'm staying at for college. I've moved apartments, so it was my second apartment, and it was also near the woods. It was located at the end of the street, and one time, I went out alone to buy some snacks because I was pulling an all-nighter for my project, and that's when I heard the weird whistle again. I don't want to overthink too much, and I told myself before that it might just be a bird, but when I heard it that night, it creeped me out. I think I heard it last February this year, and I'm still hearing it every time I go home to the countryside. Should I be concerned, or am I just being paranoid? A few years ago in college, I worked the opening shift at a coffee shop. In the summertime, I would get up early as the sun rose and stop by a trail sometimes on my way to work to wake myself up with a quick walk. The trail was only accessible off of a narrow, long winding dirt road, and this dirt road was off of a main road with no houses. The trail was poorly marked, so not many people would ever stop by, and if there was anyone else, you would either see their car parked in the small 3-car gravel lot at the trailhead, or would have to pass them on the narrow dirt road. You would have to walk a long ways down a main highway road to get there otherwise. So, back to the shave and a haircut bit. I parked there one morning, just kind of sitting in my car with the window down, when I heard a bird singing what sounded like the 2 bits, part of the song. Tired and trying to find humor in having to be up so early, I kinda laughed and whistled the shave and a haircut part, and waiting for the bird to whistle back. We went back and forth with our little game a few more times until the bird stopped responding, so I figured it flew off. Before I got out of my car though, I gave it one last whistle, and I'm glad I did, because as soon as I whistled shave and a haircut and waited for a response, I heard 2 very loud and very human claps in the 2 bits rhythm, not far from where I was parked. Drove the fuck out of there and there was no one on the road for miles. Not the most terrifying story on here, but weirds me out to think someone might have just been out there in the woods watching me alone in my car. I had some more weird shit happen last night. I took my 2 dogs for walks. I normally walk Finn towards the park where I have had these experiences, and I walk Booger in the other direction toward downtown. On my walk with Finn, about a block away in the direction I was headed, I saw 3 or 4 deer calmly walking toward the park. Most nights where found something weird happens to me start like this. The deer seemed completely unbothered by me as I approached. They kept walking toward the park, but stopped every few steps to look back at me, as if they wanted me to follow them. Then, as Finn and I reached where the deer were, I noticed about 10 or more other deer waiting as well. They all start walking together, calm, but still looking back at me every few feet. On my way toward the park, I smelled the stench of rotting meat. I know this smell very well as I used to be a butcher. It was strong, like someone plugged my nostrils with rotting ground meat or something. At the same time I smell this stench, I get the chills. Finn's hair stands up, and he gets more nervous. I can feel the air around me get colder. As we continue walking, I look down an alleyway that cuts the block in half, and if you would walk down the dark alley, would spot you out of nowhere. I eventually walk back home. I was 2 blocks away from the park. When you reach the park, you can either turn around and walk down the same road. You can continue into the park, or you can continue on the road which turns left. Looking down that alleyway, you are looking at the part of the road that continues left, which is the way I take every night on my way back home. What I saw, I tried to convince myself wasn't real. Or maybe I just saw something else and my brain tried to convince me it was this. A large, muscular, pale, hairless creature that was moving fast. So fast I could barely see it. I saw the motion down the alley about 2 blocks away. The exit of the alley on that side was a street light directly above it. It wasn't standing still. It was moving and it was moving fast. The only reason I'm positive what I saw wasn't a deer or something normal is because of something I saw later that night that I will write about when I talk about it with my walk with Booger. It solidified that what I saw was something I wasn't supposed to see. In the meantime, I convinced myself I was making stuff up and being a pussy. As we approached the tree line of the park, the large group of deer moved to the side of the street where the neighborhood is. While I'm on the side with the tree line, I noticed something in the clearing. A lone deer, separate from the large group across the street, staring directly at me. I have my flashlight pointed at him, and I even hung up my call with my wife to use my phone to take a video of this moment. This lone deer doesn't even have micro movements from breathing. The other deer across the street were constantly readjusting. You might be thinking to yourself, Oh yeah, deer do that with bright lights shining at them. Deer in headlights always act like that. Just wait. Finn gets to pull up very hard and acts anxious, nearly knocking me over. I turn to look across the street towards the large group of deer for at most 3 seconds, before quickly turning around to face the lone deer again. In those 3 seconds, that lone deer is easily 30 feet closer to me, still not moving, staring directly at me. I have this on video. I have pictures. I felt weird. I felt unsafe. I've lived in rural Iowa my whole life, and I am and have always lived outdoors. This didn't feel normal. I was scared. I back away while shining my light at the deer. Once I get a block or so away, he finally turns around and calmly walks into the tree line. The whole way home, I feel like I'm being stalked. Not just watched, but like something is following me intentionally. Now I went home and sat for a bit and tried to talk myself into believing it was all a coincidence. After nearly 20 minutes, I started to walk Booger, my smaller chi mix. The entire walk was nice and very enjoyable, actually. I had my earbuds in and was talking to my wife about what I saw in a joking way. Man, I'm such a pussy. I really scared myself for no reason, I said. At the end of the walk, I turned to go down our alleyway. As I leave from the garage on our walks, I stopped speaking from what I saw on the opposite end of the alley. My wife heard me stop. I want to preface this with I did not have any substances, including alcohol, for weeks up to that point. The most I ever do in that department is a few beers, or I'll use some weed to ease anxiety if life is getting hard. I have no mental conditions that would cause me to hallucinate. The most I have is a personality disorder resulting from trauma that I've been overcoming quickly this last year. I saw 2 large, muscular, pale, hairless creatures walking like apes at the end of the alley. The same thing I thought I saw with Finn, this time not going fast, much closer, and it felt intentional. I saw them walk across the street very slowly, staring directly at me. These were not deer. They didn't have long faces like deer. They didn't have fur or tails. They didn't walk like deer. They weren't slender like a deer. My first thought was honestly that I was looking at 2 hairless male lions in the middle of Iowa. I stood there, paralyzed with fear. Well, after they had left my sight, 15 seconds later, I finally get the courage to walk the few feet into the garage. When I take my first step, I see a third one, slowly meandering across the street, staring at me. Booger noticed him too and started growling. I ran to the door and watched the garage door shut all the way. The entire night, Finn guarded the bedroom door. He never does that. He sat staring at the door all night. Booger stared at the windows all night. He never does that either. This happened to me yesterday night, Monday, May 13th of 2024. I don't know what to think. Thank you everyone for listening. If your story was told, I'm glad I'm the one who could tell it. I appreciate all the love and support. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps me and it helps the channel out very much. But I hope you enjoyed today's stories as much as I did reading them.